But the actual number, nobody really knows, but credible estimates of people who have been on top of the numbers and trying to get the numbers from different ways, they're saying that it's way above 125,000 killed. And a lot of people are saying it's closer to 150,000 killed. And so far as wounded, incapacitated, because there are wounded and who could be patched up and sent back to the front. And then there are wounded who are just not going to go back. They've lost a limb or whatnot. You're talking maybe 180 to 220,000 wounded, incapacitated. So altogether, you're talking conservatively, 320,000 men who are out of commission. That's extraordinary numbers we're talking about here. And it seems to be credible. And insofar as the Russian losses, the BBC for a while was very carefully combing through all social media and all Russian news informations and outlets, trying to come up with credible estimates as to the Russian dead. And they stopped doing this back in July, August, I believe, because the numbers they were getting were so low. It didn't fit their narrative. They were only estimating maybe, I think it was the last number was 8,000 men. And currently it's credibly estimated the Russians, all Russian forces, Wagner PMC, the Chechen fighters, the DPR and LPR militiamen, and the Russian army, they've lost maybe killed in action 20,000. So let's take the conservative figures, the ones that Ursula von der Leyen said, which is 100,000 killed of the Kiev regime, and compare that to the outside number of the total Russian dead, which is 20,000. You're talking a ratio of 5 to 1. Okay, and the general in charge of the Ukraine armed forces, he said that they currently had, as of this was about 2 weeks ago, 10 days ago, he said that they currently had 200,000 men. He said this to the Wall Street Journal and The Economist, who did a round of interviews with them, right? They had 200,000 men under arms. And the Russians, it is known that they have 650,000 right now on the borders of Ukraine. So this is an attritional conflict. And ultimately, in an attritional war, what matters is who has the bigger numbers and who can inflict the greater losses. If the Russians are inflicting casualties at a rate of 5 to 1, and on top of that, they have over 3 times the armed force that the Ukraine side has, then it becomes just an inevitability. It's not something that, the outcome is not in dispute. It's just a matter of how we will get to that outcome and in what time frame. I mean, this war ended as a practical matter quite some time ago, in the sense that we know who's going to win. When you're playing some board game or something, perhaps you're playing with your children like Monopoly or something, or you're playing chess with a friend, and there's that moment when you realize, oh, it's over. I lost. I mean, yeah, I can keep on playing, but the result, we know it. That moment has gone. I mean, it's obvious now. The inevitability of this conflict is obvious, but the cost that we inflicted on these boys. I mean, we're talking 15, 16-year-old children. That's unconscionable. I mean, at least, with the old men who are fighting, well, they don't have that much life ahead of them, quite frankly. I mean, it sounds callous, but, at least there's that comfort. They lived a life and then they died in a war. Horrible. But some 16-year-old child, they shouldn't be within 100 kilometers of any kind of combat like that. They're too young. They're babies, because I've seen the videos. It's horrifying, to see these children. And I'm sorry I'm getting... No, it's getting sentimental, but you know what I mean?
It's an emotional subject. Gonzalo Lira, as always, much obliged to you. Stay safe, and we'll talk to you again, I hope, before long.